Everybody to the Monday, June 13th regular city council meeting. Let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, thank you all for coming. First, we have to approve additions to the agenda. There are some additional bills to be paid. There are 3 requests from Bolton and Mink, one for change orders for Birch Narrows, and pay application number 1 for road improvements, and pay application number 1 for the sewer extension. And last, under public safety, there's a Alexa poll proposal and master service agreement for policy manual through Sourcewell. So do we have a motion to approve those?
So move.
Second.
Okay, motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next public forum, action may or may not be taken on any issues raised. If council requires more information or time for consideration, the issues will be placed on the agenda of the next regular council meeting. Speaker must state their name and address. Anybody have anything? Jerry?
Jerry Volt, Simone Beach Trail. The city is not doing a very good job of maintaining the shoulders on the detour. We're gonna end up repaving that whole road. I mean, the city guys gotta drive by on it. It's the only way to the other end of town. They gotta see it, or do they go like this? It's gotta be done. The potholes are getting big, Aaron, you know what it, and it's not just the corners, it's the whole shoulder.
It's taken some
And
more.
it should be done more than once every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
They're starting to break chunks out.
Yeah, and it's only gonna get worse. You're gonna have them residents in here chewing some. And there's a tree hanging down on the sidewalk on Swan Drive since the storm. People are walking around it. I know the city guys gotta drive by there. Pull it off there. And there's one on Daggett Pine too that's sitting right on the edge of the tar. It's been 2 weeks now.
Have you noticed the weight restriction sign still on by 66 Marine?
I don't know, but
Yeah.
anyway, that shouldering's got to get done.
Yeah.
At a regular base.
Mike, are they really busy or must be? Yeah, of course they are. Well, I'll mention it to them. Mike, you should mention it to them too, whatever. Okay, anybody else? Not seeing anybody, we'll close public forum. Next is the consent calendar. All items listed are considered to be routine by the city council and will be acted on by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a citizen or a council member so requests. Everybody have a chance to look at it?
I did nothing.
Any questions? Nothing? Motion?
Move to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
I'll second it.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next is the mayor council members report, and first up is Alden Hardwick on a playground update.
I'll go first, then you come up and join me then, though.
Alden, you're getting pretty good at getting up there, I gotta say.
Well, tonight is special for me because I can come back and thank the community for what they've done.
Let me stop you, and the community thanks you for what you've done. I just can't help but put in there.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you've done.
I agree.
Okay.
Well, it's a really special time. This Sunday, we had the opening of the Dietz Memorial. And the equipment was installed for the Dietz Memorial and most of the regular park. And so now we sit, after a short time, all winter, thinking about this vision, and now the vision is real. And there is a park there that's really special. Last October, we presented the first request for Phase 1, and we talked about a 5-phase program over 3 years. I'm an optimist, and I'm really underestimated the community. Here we've done it in 8 months, raised the money, did the volunteers, did the work, built something almost impossible. When I worked on the library project, the consultant said it would take 7 years, and it took us 8. And now we did it in 8 months. And so it really is unique, and our community is very special that will allow this happen and make this happen. Now, I look back and say, how was this possible? And first, I'm going to lay the credit on the council. We came to the meeting, and every time you were positive. You were in complete agreement. You were positive that we could do it. You were positive that the community needed this park. You were positive that we could raise the money, and we did. If it had grown into discussion and a dispute, it never would have happened. The fact that you guys were in agreement, were supportive, transferred right to the community, because the council meetings was our main publicity on the park. And it was successful because you guys were for it. And not only were you publicly and for it, each one of you came and talked to me and said how much you approved the project and liked what we're doing. And that's really special because projects don't go easy. And many times there's adverse consequences and things like this. And so your encouragement was really important. And it set the tone for the community. And then the community itself. We kind of said the money just poured in. But it really kind of did. We had gifts from the Legion, from the Lions, from the Christmas for Kids, 4 different foundations, individual businesses, all stepped forward. And we've raised almost all the money now. We took some money originally out of the PAL Treasury, but now that's almost all recovered. Very special. And then the volunteers came and built it. And TJ will show you the presentation he made of what was done, and you can share in some of the fun that the people had during this time. You know, the PAL Foundations thank you. They thank the community. This is really truly remarkable when you think of what happened. This was a major expense project that was paid for by donations. Yeah. And it just, we have a really unique community that something like this would happen, and happen so fast. It's, I can't say this, but it almost says it. It's a financial miracle. How could I have been here and 8 months later have all the funding for it and the thing in place? How is that possible?
Is it fair for me to ask on the community's benefit how much you did raise?
Yes, counting the money that you guys did park dedication, it was about $250,000.
Yeah, that is incredible in 8 months' time.
Yes.
Raised it and put it out.
It came in with big contributions, and it came in with small. We have one that's $10 a month.
Yep.
It keeps coming, and so we thank you guys. So thanks to the community, thanks from the PAL Foundation, thanks from our future generation of kids, because we've left a legacy now that's really special, truly unique in all this region here. One of the newest in this obstacle course, TJ will talk to you about that, but it's, I think, one of the 3 built. And so we have something truly unique. And now to share the fun, TJ will talk through the PowerPoint.
Yeah, no, I encourage everybody to go down to the community center and see it. It is pretty amazing.
Okay. And are you going to run it, David? Oh, okay, Mike. All right. TJ.
Sure. So we got the volunteer playground build of June 2022. And as you can see here, the first day, the first half day consisted of us pretty much unpacking 7 crates, and you'll see some of them are 14 foot long. We estimated probably 2,500 bolts washers and just parts laying everywhere over by the park, and it was a little bit daunting the first half day, but we came back the next day, guns a-blazing. We'll go to the next one. We have volunteers setting the holes, getting everything to the appropriate height. We started laying out the decking for the Bison River. This is the 2 to 5 system. And then we started organizing the poles in the holes, and each pole has its own special place, its own special height and appropriate place. So we had to be tedious before we put the decking on and got too far in the project before we go, uh-oh. But Brad and Jake from Game Time, they made everything really easy for us. They directed traffic and gave us all the appropriate bolts, nuts, screws. So it was a really smooth process. We'll go to the next slide. Here we're fastening the decks to the poles, and then we started assembling the crawl tube for the Bison River. Now we started working on the timber roofs. This was a bit challenging. We had some volunteers hold the ladders because we had working with holes all around the base of our ladders, so we'll make sure we're sturdy up there. Those are pretty heavy, but again, Brad and Jake really made things go really smooth. Here, volunteers started to lay out the swing set and started to assemble that. That went up pretty well. It didn't take too long a time. This one was a bit of a learning curve. We got the older style of the climbing trees. They're still the same looks, but the internal guts of the trees are a bit more complicated to lay out and put together. So we had to take some time to listen to Brad on that one. And you'll see after all the learning, there was a break time over by the bench. This is a cool feature that we've put in on the refurb side. Since Brad and Jake were so involved helping us out in the obstacle course, we offered some volunteer help over at the refurbishment portion. There's Dave and Pam putting the rollers on the roller slide, and we've already gotten some feedback on that. The kids just absolutely love it. So next slide. Here we're starting to work on the Mary Lou Dietz obstacle course. This, like Alden said, we have the one of 3 in the entire United States. We pretty much ordered this 2.5 months after they designed it back in their computers. So it's pretty cool that we can have something super unique like that here in Cross Lake. This was obviously the first build for Brad and Jake, the installers. So they really worked with us. We had to come over some obstacles. There was ratchet straps involved. There was a lot of grunting and twisting and pulling and lifting, but we got it. So we'll go to the next slide. Here's just more work in the obstacle course. There were many, many parts, screws, bolts to this one, but again, Jake was able to line things up for us and steer us in the right direction. Now we finally got to the concrete work. We just had over 6 yards of concrete work, and they were all the concrete was all shoveled out by volunteers. It was a little bit tedious. We had to come back, when things set up a little bit to make final adjustments. But again, with all the volunteer help and all the hard work we went through, it went really smooth and effortless. Here we have our staff putting the border together. That was a little bit more challenging, trying to figure out the angles we want, and we didn't really have to stay true to the design work that the company put together. All we had to do was stay 6 feet away from the fall zone so we could kind of tweak it to our liking. It took us a little bit to kind of lay it out, but once we started getting our string line in place, it was just smooth sailing from there. Here we have the border in and the fabric down, and we're just waiting for the mulch. Here was Friday. We had 4 volunteers out spreading mulch. It was pretty effortless with the 1-ton and the Bobcat, or the skiddy, rolling around, dumping where we needed it, and they certainly had some fun. They took some goofy pictures there on the right side, and good to see them out there having fun. Here was Sunday, as Alden talked about. This was the dedication for Mary Lou Dietz. I don't have any pictures of the indoor luncheon that we had, but it was a blast. Ginny Merrill put together such a great event. I believe we probably had 75 people showed up. Okay.
They had to measure down to 1 cent.
So we gave some speeches, and we let the Dietz kids unveil the rock. And it was a pretty special moment for them. So now I'd like to say a special thank you to the following volunteers. Without this crew, this project literally would not have been able to be put up. With my staff alone, it just would not have been possible. So I'd like to give credit to these following volunteers. Alden Hardwick, Tom Swenson, Jerry Voles, Jean White, Pam Graves, Deb Dalkey, Mike O'Connell, Mick Cheetah, Tom Schreiber, Dave Schrupp, Mark Fritzvold, Linda Paff, and Brenda Britton. And I would also like to give a special thank you to Moonlight Bay. They did provide lunch twice on 2 days for the volunteers. So I'd like to give a round of applause for all the volunteers in Moonlight Bay. Thank you, guys. The remaining portion of the playground, we're going to kind of piece together as we find some time here. We're going to be kind of pulled away with catching up on some other things, but we have to spread out the rest of the mulch. We have to install the remaining border around the entire playground, and then we're going to get that shade feature put up by the Bison River. And a separate contracted company is going to come out and do the 2 poured and played pads by the swing set in Bison River. So we have still a little bit of work to do on the docket, but we're shooting for maybe a middle of July, end of July grand opening for that one. So stay tuned.
Thanks much, TJ.
Yes, thank you.
Alden, thank you again. Can't thank you enough.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, next we have a couple thank you notes from Log Church members for waiving the sewer assessment, and I don't think I have to read them, huh? We have a resolution accepting donations. We've got a donation here from Mike and Kelly Haglund for $5,000 for the police department. Donation from the Pell Foundation for $2,664 for benches. And a donation from somebody for $79.98 for the community garden. That's also from the Pell. Oh, from the Pell, okay. So do we need a motion to accept that?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution accepting donations in the amounts that you stated.
I'll second it.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All in favor. Next, we have to accept a resignation from one of the planning and zoning guys, Randy DeMook. Said, with regret, I tender my resignation from the Cross Lake Planning and Zoning Committee. So we need a motion to accept that.
I'll make a motion that we accept it, and I want to also include our gratitude that he's been on the commission for quite a while, and I appreciate him coming, volunteering his time, coming in and doing a lot of very good things. So thank you, Randy, and make the motion to accept it.
I'll second that.
Okay, I echo that appreciation, Randy. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next is a discussion regarding the elimination of, oh,
You're also supposed to make an appointment from the 2 alternates that you
oh,
have.
do we have a recommendation
You
for
have
that?
2 alternates. That's your recommendation.
Boy, I didn't talk to anybody before this. Joel? Who do you guys, I mean, Jerry, do you have an opinion on that? Aaron, do you?
Do you have an alternate? Do you have an alternate for that
We
committee?
have 2 alternates. Joel Knippel. She's my neighbor, I should remember her name.
Kristen.
Christine. Yeah, they're both good.
Peter, do you have an opinion there? I should have talked to
think-
somebody before the meeting, I didn't.
We had Chairman Wessels appointed for temporary to have Kristen Graham fill in for the vacancy. So I think both members are equally good and both share interest in it. Joel has done it before.
Let Chris have a chance?
I think Kristen, she sat in, she did a very good job, and Joel is good too. I
Okay.
think Kristen would be great to give her a shot at it. So,
Okay, I make a motion, we appoint Chris Graham to fill the vacancy.
Second.
Any other discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Mike, that's it for me.
you still have item 5 to talk about.
Oh, yeah. Discussion regarding the elimination of the Personnel Committee. So we've got a Personnel Committee that we do not acknowledge or use. So I guess, Marcia, did you request this to come on? How did this come?
Yes, I did.
You did?
I just thought if we're never going to use the Personnel Committee, then let's eliminate it. We haven't used it in a year and a half. Council's taken care of everything, so I think apparently we don't need a Personnel Committee.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we eliminate the Personnel Committee.
I'll second it.
Okay, and just a comment, is the benefit to having a two-council and administrator personnel committee is you don't have to have a public meeting, correct?
Yeah, you do.
It's got,
Correct.
you do have to? Or you don't?
No, you can, it's a public meeting. Any meeting you hold is public.
You can't close.
Yeah.
Can't close.
Anyway, when the whole council's together, it's a posted meeting, so there's not much of an opportunity to have any discussions, but we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries, all in favor. Okay, Mike?
All right, thank you, Dave. I've got 4 updates for you. The first, we've already heard a little bit about tonight, is storm damage. Just so everybody knows, we've kept the brush pile open during the week. We normally don't do that. Normal hours are 10 to 6, Friday and Saturday, but because of the storm, we've left it open from 8 to 3. Last week, we shut it down for a couple days so we could burn up the pile that we did have there. So Public Works has been out first clearing emergency routes along with the fire department the first day of the storm. So once they got all that done, they went back and started taking care of the bigger problems. You know, trees on cars, working with the power company, getting things back out of the power line so power could get restored. Now they're going back and picking up the things that weren't a high priority the first time and things that have popped up since then. So when you do see things like that that haven't been addressed yet, be sure you give us a call. Let us know what they are, and we'll get them prioritized and get them taken care of as soon as we can. The other thing we'll be doing is we did qualify for some disaster relief funding to help cover some of our costs for the storms. Just to put it in perspective, I know the fire department has already submitted their information. They were out the night of the storm. We had staff from Parks, and we had all Public Works staff out since then. We've had some interesting ones where we had a couple that trees that actually fallen on cars. We couldn't touch them because there were still power lines in them. So we had to wait till the power company would came back and cleared it so we could take the trees off it so they could get their insurance claim filed and get the vehicles. You know, a lot of times, you know, when something like that happens, you know, one of your vehicles gets crushed or damaged. Well, this was a case where both of them got flattened right down to the ground, right in the right-of-way. So there's still quite a bit of work left to do. We're not sure when we'll finish it, but they're going as fast as they can to get the higher risk things done, along with keeping the trails open and the things that pop up, the normal things that pop up, like shouldering, potholes, things like that. So be patient. When you do see things, let us know. Send us an email. There is a place on the website to report a concern so we can get it prioritized and get it taken care of. Okay? Second item.
Can I just say something? That tree on Daggett Pine, it's a very dangerous situation. You got it off the road, the split trunk off the road, but the other part is still standing and it's probably 30 feet up from the split, and there's only this much of the trunk on there. And
Right, and we just heard about that tonight, so we'll take care of it.
no, I told 2 weeks ago in the office. I think I talked to you, Pete, I talked to the police department, I talked to Seth. So it's been 2 weeks, and that's a very dangerous situation because that tree, I don't know if it even needs wind, and it's coming over on the road. Maybe Maybe we'll be lucky and it'll go the other way, but do we want to take that chance? That's one of those prioritize. I think you should, Seth went out and looked at it. I don't know why it hasn't been taken care of, so just storm damage telling you.
Well, now we've heard about it twice tonight, so it's on our list to take care of. Thank you. Item 2, just an update on staffing and negotiations. I think everyone's aware now, the council offered and the job was accepted for the Public Works Director. His name is Patrick Wayner. Patrick comes to us from Blooming Prairie. He's been down there for quite a while. He's got a ton of experience running public works, and he's actually responsible for 2 different sewer operations in his current position that he's leaving to come here. He does have a place up here. He's got all of his appropriate licensures, all references checked out, A-OK. Like I said, he'll be here on July 5th, and he's also a master electrician. So that's a skill we can certainly use here. As a reminder for the council, we've got 1 bargaining unit left that's open. As a reminder, the next meeting is a closed meeting for negotiations and labor strategy. That's June 22nd at noon. I think that in the second meeting will probably be both open and closed, and that's Monday, the 27th at 9:30 a.m. So that's just a reminder for the council. Item 3, project funding. Some of the projects, the road projects, are done or just about done. One of the things we haven't talked about is, well, we've talked about it, we've even issued reimbursement resolutions to pay for them through bonding. One thing I still need to know is, are we going to assess for road projects, and what is the level of computation, if you will, for connection charges for the sewer? And the reason we need to know that is that it doesn't really impact, or it can impact the amount of debt we issue to pay for these, but more importantly, it impacts how we pay them back and how we structure the bond issues. So we'll need to address that very soon, and I see it's comes up again further down on the list for tonight's discussion, okay? Yep, just a heads up. Last item, item 4, update on the 2023 budget. I'd like to get some dates on the calendar. If you'd like to do it, last year we had a number of dates. We did 3 meetings for the preliminary budget, 1 in August, 1 and 2 in September. And remember, we need a preliminary levy set by the end of September. What I'd like to do is have the assessment issue resolved and the connection charge resolved as best we can before that budget, so we can work those numbers into whatever levy we have for the bonds that we ultimately will issue later this summer. We've had a lot of meetings. So what I'm suggesting is we do the budget meetings the afternoon of our monthly council meetings. The first one would be July 11th, August 8th, and then September 12th. If that works for the council, or you'd like to do another date, what I'm thinking is either a morning meeting or an afternoon meeting, but what I'm not suggesting is a meeting starting at 5 and then going right into a council meeting. I'd like a break between that. What's your preference? Would you like to do early afternoon, morning, or some other time frame or day?
So you're saying July 11th at like 4 o'clock?
No, I would say like 3 o'clock and then give everybody a break for dinner and then come back for the council meeting.
Why don't you do like 1?
Or we could do 1 p.m.
Do we have to do it on a council meeting day?
No, we've already got council meetings scheduled, so everyone's expecting to be here sometime that day, rather than take up another day of your week. We can do that. It doesn't matter to
Well,
me.
sometimes we get rushed when we have a budget meeting or some other meeting that we want to review things, and we get rushed, and we don't have time for it, and then pretty soon we're in the council meeting, so.
Well, that's why I'm not suggesting we do it at 4 or 5. I'm suggesting in the morning or early afternoon, like 1. or another day. You can think about it, but
9 o'clock,
9 o'clock?
9 to noon.
I would prefer 1 o'clock myself. It's a Monday morning for me, it's kind of.
1's fine with me.
1 o'clock on the 11th?
That works for me.
Marcia, good?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay.
How does August 8th and September 12th work then too? Those are the next two council meetings.
Same drill.
Same drill?
I'm good with that.
Okay. So with that said, in the meantime, please get me your concerns, what you'd like to see. I'll be working with staff over the next month to come up with, update the capital items and operating items. We've got a number of issues outstanding. One is the lease with the county. There's been a little confusion on that, on which budget year it comes into. From the city's perspective, the contract is up in February of 2023. When the contract was originally set up back in 2002, roughly. Chip has a question. Oh. It originally expired in 2024. When the bonds were refunded, because interest rates went down, it basically took a year off of the bond payment. So there was an amendment to the original agreement to have it expire in 2023. So from the county's perspective, right now they pay 53% of the bonds we pay, which is essentially their monthly lease payment. And we're running about right around that 30,000 range for normal operating things that we charge them. So what the county is doing is they're going through a process right now, and we've had a couple meetings with them collecting different data points on what they'd like to see. And when Ted was here, we had some preliminary meetings with them on what we'd like to see. And right now, we're still working through that. One of the issues we've identified is we really don't have your normal landlord-tenant type arrangement. We're the landlord, the county is the tenant, yet they've got the resources for maintenance and things like that. So we're trying to figure out what the best thing is for both of us. Now, I've heard things like, well, let's sell it and move to a different location. Let's stay here. I don't see the relationship changing. What I see it happening is it's seeing it being clarified, so we have better operating instructions going forward. We did find some documentation where back in 2010, 2011, there were a number of issues raised that with respect to clarifying items within the lease. So we're following up on those items too to say, well, were they actually done, or did everyone say, well, we're just going to go like we are because it's working, and we've got a few years left. So more to come on that as we get more information.
Brad, have you reviewed the lease agreement at all? Do you think that's a good idea? Or just leave it up to the county? Yeah.
Well, the county developed that lease, didn't they, the county attorney? Right?
The county and the city attorney worked together on it at the time. It was a joint effort.
I think we need to know that if we're going to go into budgeting. We need to know whether they're going to lease or not lease, or,
Yep,
you know,
and as I meant-
what path we're going to take.
I did ask that question directly to Tim Bray last week, and they said, we're collecting data points right now, and there'll be more to come.
When do they have to have their budget done?
You know the answer to that at the same time we do, and I know that you've already talked to Tim Bray about that.
I did call him,
Yep,
because I asked him, I said, are we going to find out about this prior or when we're going through budget? I said, we're going to start budgeting, but he didn't really, there was no
there was no
answer.
commitment.
There was
Yep.
no answer. on
And
it.
that's what was been reported before, is you're going through that process as you would from the county's perspective. Even though the lease expires in February, our last bond payment is in February, so that's effectively their rent for 2023. If we do nothing, the lease automatically renews for another year under the current terms. So those are all good questions. Those are all things we're trying to work through right now. So there will be more to come as we get more information.
Well,
That shouldn't mean that we shouldn't look at it and raise our own questions and have things that we'd like to see changed either. So
he did say that. He said, what does the city want? And I said, I can't tell you that because we don't seem to talk about it because the county hasn't given us any direction. He says, well, maybe you should be contacting the county with what you want.
right, and we've suggested that too. So we'll have an opportunity coming up in July. We'll have our new Public Works Director on. He'll be part of that process. One thing we'll do is we'll identify how much of the building each of us is using, and does the current use still make sense? What are the plans? One thing you'll be seeing is, like I said, we've got a unique relationship. For example, we've got a salt brine facility there we're trying to figure out what to do with, because you remember back in 2020, we had a leak in the salt brine tank. Hoses were being changed, and when the county set the hose down on the ground, it lost vacuum pressure, and there was about 100 gallons of brine that went into our treatment plant. And we didn't know that happened until after we had talked to them and found out what happened. Now, you'll see that coming out in the MPCA's normal audit process on what happened, what we did, and what we're doing to prevent that in the future. One thing we're looking at, you asked, is potentially moving that brine tank to its own building. The city doesn't use brine on the roads, just the county does. So we're looking at moving that to either a different building, or the county is looking at a different type of process to make brine for the roads that would be self-contained. They're having trouble locating, supply chain issues locating the physical equipment to do that. So that might be a next year item, not a this year item. But we're trying to get those kinds of things done this year. Okay?
So can we have the Public Works Commission put that on their agenda for their next meeting so that they discuss it too?
Sure.
And, you know, I think the county's, he said, well, what does the city want to do? Are you happy with the situation? I said, I can't comment on that. I think they're waiting for the county to come up with what they want. And he said, well, he kind of made it sound like the county was waiting to find out what the city wanted.
Maybe we should have a joint meeting with them, or at least him, at the Public Works Commission. Find out where we're at.
Yep. Tim's been very candid. If he knew something, which direction they're going, he would have told me.
Yeah.
But right now, they don't. They haven't talked with it amongst themselves. And they're doing what we would do too. We have an arrangement with a lease agreement. The bond payment, annual bond payment, is essentially their lease payment. If you do the math on it, big picture, they pay us, they reimburse us about $150,000 a year to occupy that building.
So at worst case, it'll roll over for an extra year, and it'll carry on just like we are for another year,
Yep.
if they can't make it up, so. But it would be nice to know. On that note, Mike, the roundabout, is there any word on that?
No, none. The only thing that I know on that is I've been working with Tim at the county. We were successful in combining our sidewalk grant and the county grant together. So we'll administer that through the county. We're in the process right now of coming up with a work plan to go out for RFPs for engineering services. The county doesn't have the bandwidth to take the engineering for both of those projects internally. So they're working on pulling together general specifications and combining the projects, so they'll be done both at the same time, whatever those projects are.
Tim had said that he was gonna have some open houses with the public about the roundabout and get some input on it.
Yep, and he'll do that.
Okay. I just hope it doesn't go too far down the road before, if they're doing engineering on it. seems to me that that should,
Well, we need to get the RFP out there to get an engineer, an interested party to do that, so they can start that process.
I just hope that he
Yep.
does that in a timely, because there are people on both sides of the fence with that, and they should be heard, so.
Now, remember, this is a 2026 project we're trying to pull in sooner.
Well, but it's to go with the Loon Center in 2024. moved
Right,
ahead
and
is
there's a
what the
lot of
schedule
hoops to
is.
jump through to pull it forward to
No,
get
no, I
that,
know,
so.
but 2024 will be here soon, so,
Mm-hmm.
just so he's, yeah, I just don't want to blindside the public. They're expecting to have some input, and we should. Okay,
That's all I have, unless the council has any questions for me.
no, I'm good. All right, Pete, are you going to come up and do your planning and zoning?
All right, if, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, if I could direct your attention to item F1A, please. And what you have before you here is the final plat for the subdivision involving 3.03 acres into 18 parcels. This was a preliminary plat heard by the Planning Commission on the May 27th meeting and was unanimously recommended to the City Council for approval. The action we're looking for tonight is a recommendation and approval for the plat as presented to the Planning Commission on the May 27th, 2022 meeting. And a copy of the final plat is on the back of that. And what it achieves is 18 separately developable units for storage. So it's a project that fits the neighborhood very good and is a very good mixed use in a limited commercial area and was approved very readily. So that's a summary. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, we'll look for a motion.
Pete, is there an additional building on that site? Is that what Block 4 is?
Yeah, the applicant will be constructing one more building out
more
there,
building.
but the rest of them, they're just repurposing the existing buildings into business storage.
Pete, have they verified the septic?
Yes, we have received the septic system design for the size of the proposed use.
And is there park dedication fees associated?
The applicant has dropped off park dedication fees to the office as of this afternoon, so
Was what, 16?
18 altogether, I think
Okay,
27,000.
yeah, roughly, yeah, that'd be about right. Okay.
Yeah.
Pete, any comments from the public or any other agencies, pro or con?
The neighbor notices were extremely quiet on this application. It's a very well-received application, so.
Thank you.
So you need a motion to approve?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay.
And then we'll have a copy of the final plat for you to sign and the city clerk as well. So the surveyors run the closure report, so we should have that ready in a couple days.
So I move that we approve the Antler Business Park final plat as presented.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion on it? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries, all in favor.
All right, thank
Okay,
you.
Pete, thank you. Public Works, are you going to take that, Mike?
Yep, I'll take Public Works. First item, item 2A, is a memo from the city clerk, and it talks about headstone size. From time to time, we get questions in the cemetery, and when I get a question from the cemetery, the number one question I get concerns Rule 21 out of 34 on what can I put for a marker for a headstone. Generally, it can't be too high, it's got to fit within the site, the grave site, and we have to be able to mow around it efficiently. Not every headstone somebody wants to put in there meets that exact rule, so we get, sometimes people just go put them out there, and we find out about it some other time, where they come in and ask, can I put something in there, and here's what it looks like, will this be okay? We prefer when people come in and ask us that, and we have a discussion about how it's going to fit in there. So this one did not fit into the rules. And so the person is asking, can I put this headstone even though it doesn't meet your exact requirements? So a couple things came out of that discussion, and this came through Public Works first. And so the first thing that came out of that was, you know, maybe it's time for staff to take a look at the rules and see if they still make sense. So we did. Primarily Shar looked at that. She deals with it the most. And the rules seem pretty good, but we're always going to have those one-offs that don't exactly match our rules. So in this case, what we're suggesting is we're not suggesting any major rule changes at this time, but rather that if something doesn't fit exactly, that the process goes to Public Works. We take a look at it primarily through Shar. If it fits, if it's not intrusive, if it doesn't block the marker behind it or in front of it, we should allow it. So in this case, staff is recommending approval of a variance for this headstone.
I guess my question is 2 inches. It's 2 inches this way or this way? Too big. Why would we?
The main question is it is a bench. It is not a headstone.
Oh,
It's a bench.
okay.
But it's on a concrete slab, it doesn't create any
Correct.
more work for mowing or anything, so.
Correct.
I think we should
In
allow people to have monuments,
Rule number 24 says no seats.
yeah, so.
So it's a variance. It needs council approval. That's why it's in front of you. More than the 2 inches.
I definitely
it's a seat.
agree that we should at least have a look at what they're doing, but I think for people to memorialize is a good thing. You had mentioned last time that somebody put a taller headstone in front of somebody. So I don't know if when people are buying grave sites, if you could do anything to describe that they cannot do that. I mean, just do a disclaimer. If you're going to put a larger monument.
They get a book of rules and regulations.
Is that described in that book, though, not to do that?
Yes, it gives
It
you the
is.
dimensions. Yes,
I mean, because that's unfortunate,
right.
yeah.
And most of the monument companies are familiar with our rules and regulations.
That's probably why they're here, honestly. Or is it already up?
Which one?
That's already up.
This one.
Somebody,
This one is not,
no, but
Okay.
the
But
other
I-
one that blocks the site behind it is up.
right. And over time, they become lax, the headstone companies, and they just, I mean, that was from one of our companies that does headstones all the time. And it just got through. So
I'm gonna just make a motion that we approve this one here and that we look into this a little farther this winter when we have a little more time, but
look into what?
just the rules,
Okay.
you know, I mean, we don't want to do it now,
The council
but,
can, yeah.
but I'll make a motion that we approve this.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion on it? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
You're opposed? Okay. 4-1. Motion carries.
There's rules. They're written.
I would say that this is the only issue with the cemetery I've seen in 8 years.
Well, but
About this, though, about headstone.
once you start the laxness, get ready for the next one.
No, but this is a 2-inch in a bench, you know.
Well, in other words, there's
If
two.
they can come like they have tonight, then we can look at it, so.
We have been
Seems like the
warned.
rules. I know, we've been warned, but
Okay.
Okay, item 2B is for the wash bay columns down at Public Works, in the joint Public Works facility. Dave, I know you were down there looking at the wash bay columns earlier, and some of the other issues we're having down there. This is one we need to get fixed, and the county was doing some work already with high tech, and so they went and got an estimate for us, and they're asking for council approval in the amount of $16,618 to repair the columns in the wash bay.
And we split that with the county.
We cost share on it. It's not an even split.
Close,
Yep,
close to an equal split.
yep.
What is the cost share?
5347. Same as the contract. We need to do this, whether we go with this plan or not, but here's an engineered plan on how that repair is going to be made.
Yeah, no, we need to maintain the thing, so one of you guys want to make a motion? Or?
I move that we replace the wash bay columns as described in the discussion tonight.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Are we doing the galvanized or which one?
I would assume
Galvanized.
so, yeah.
Okay, any other comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, item F2C is an interesting one. This kind of goes back to the item I brought up earlier on item E3 on project financing on connection charges. One of the questions that came out of an earlier discussion on connection charges is what did we do with Cross Lake Car Wash? I didn't have the answer to that. I didn't know exactly what we had done. If you remember at that time, we were contracting with Crow Wing County for planning and zoning services to administer our land use ordinance. And so we went back to the records and we looked at what was done, or what was agreed to and what was actually done, and they were different. What was agreed to, according to our records, was on the connection charges. The city was charged the car wash, Cross Lake Car Wash, $6,500 for one connection. Along with continuous monitoring of effluent, any outflow exceeding 8,000 gallons will require additional hookup fees first time they go over that. What we didn't know is in billing, we didn't know that arrangement was made. So we had no trigger other than the question a few years later on now what do we do? This was done back on October 11th of 2017, and it looks like in the 50 or so months, 55 months or so, whatever it comes down to, about half of the time we were over 8,000 gallons and half of the time we weren't. So we should have sent the bill for $6,500 back. It looks like, if I'm reading this correct, Char, back in 2019.
March
But we didn't know
28th
to do
is the
that.
first day it went over? Yeah.
Yes, that was the first billing, that would have been for, March. So the question is, I wasn't comfortable just sending Scott a bill without either talking to him or getting some recommendation from Public Works, so that's why we're talking about this tonight. So there's a couple things you can do. You can take the Public Works Commission recommendation and move on, or you can talk about it a little more.
Well, I'd like to invite Scott to come up and tell us his side of it. Yeah, come on up. I think the $6,500 that is proposed to be charged is not the $9,200 that is currently being charged for a connection charge
Remember,
on a
this was
commercial.
5 years ago, though.
Right. No.
So, okay, my name's Scott Seamers, Mayor, Council, everyone in attendance. Do you want copies of this? I made a few extra copies if you want to follow along.
I'll take what?
It is going to be, I'm asking for a little more than the 3 minutes.
Yep. This is not open for public forum.
If anybody else wants a copy, if you want to wait to go make a copy, go ahead.
Jeez, this is your whole life story here.
No, it's the whole situation.
Okay.
You guys wanted to know, so I'm going to tell you. Okay, my name's Scott Seamers. I reside at 35724 County Road 3 in Cross Lake, and I'm here tonight along with my wife Nicole to shed a light to the ones who are asking to what we had to go through as far as a hookup. What we finally decided and agreed on by both parties involved is we finally ended up doing as far as our business after the options we tried to do, the hookup charge, sewer fees, and boring, et cetera, et cetera. Back in 2010, we knew Cross Lake needed a good car wash and detail center, so we pursued that. We own that along with Seamers Four Seasons Storage. It was brought to my attention last Friday that the Public Works Commission had recommended we charge another hookup 5 years after the fact. Without knowing the agreement that was made by both parties. Dave, I believe you were on the council back then. I know Tom was around when all this was going on. Shar was here. So when we met at the previous city hall, we agreed to hook up to the city sewer system for a charge of $6,500. Signed the permit application once the decision was made by both parties. The only way that we had was to ever have another charge was if we were to put in a touchless wash. We never did that. I have every document from day one. I have all the proof. I have letters from the MPCA.
Where's the documentation saying that the only chance of another charge is if you did a touchless car wash?
Well, you guys should have it too. I have my records, where are yours?
Well, mine, right here, I'll tell you what we have, is we have, on the date that you applied for this, continuous monitoring of effluent. Any outflow exceeding 8,000 gallons a month will require an additional hookup fee, $6,500. That's on the original one.
I have the exact one right here.
Yeah.
And if you look at this,
Okay,
that's been added on.
well, it's for office use, so, you
Well,
don't have it on your signed copy?
Yes, he does.
I have it right here, but it's been added on. It was added on after the fact. That was not the agreement. That was not, otherwise we would have never hooked up the city sewer. We had the chance to put in pressure beds. We had it all approved by the MPCA, and Ken Anderson, not to name drop, bucked us very bad, put us through hell. We could have put in the pressure bed system for $20,000, had no fees at all, zero. I agreed to hook up to the city sewer and pay for the directional boring, which cost me $5,950, and I have that right here also. So I feel that for you, after 5 years in our agreement to come back and do this, then you better go right down the line. You got Zorbas, every other business had only paid the $6,500.
Well, I think we do monitor them, don't we? And if they go over 8,000 gallons, do they get charged?
I pay an additional cost. I pay $55 a month for my 8,000 gallons, and if I go over that, I pay another.
No.
If I go 8,100 gallons, I pay $110.
That's a user charge.
Yep.
He's talking,
Yeah,
the
no.
6,500 is a connection charge.
So use Rafferty's for a good example, or not Rafferty's, Zorbas. Do they go over 8,000 gallons a month?
Yes.
And have they paid 2 connection charges?
No.
So everybody is in the same boat. Nobody has been charged any additional on the first run.
They all hooked up in 2004,
When did Scott hook up?
Well, the policy,
2017.
Oh, so there's 13 years between.
but the policy,
Same ordinance. It's a-
No,
same-
but it's 13 years between, so there was changes
As far as,
on what the regulations were. No, I think there was changes.
I have always been told that you cannot go back and charge an assessment for a change of use, but you can charge for a connection fee additionally. If it goes from a single house to a hotel, you can charge multiple connection fees.
well,
You've
to
only
let
got one
me sum it all
opportunity.
up, our agreement was if we ran and paid the $5,950 boring cost for the 475 foot that we had the directional bore, and at that time I had asked the city to at least meet us at the road, at County Road 3. No response. They wanted no part of that. And I said, why would you not do this? You have the veterinary clinic, you have the golf course, Jag Interiors, you have the Dollar General. They wanted no part of it. Ken just says, no, that's not how it works.
All right, this is a new day. Let's not spend too much time on that.
Well,
but
I'm
point
speeding
taken.
through, it, but the point of the fact is, and Dave and Shar, you can remember the nightmare that we went through. Everything that we wanted to do, Ken bucked. He pulled up, oh, your handicap sign is 1 inch too low. Oh, you did this, you
Yeah,
did that.
no, I know.
But
You know,
that
you
wasn't
know.
in 2017. That was.
It doesn't matter when
I
it
know.
was, but that all led up to this.
Right.
Yeah. So,
So we are not charging Zorbas an extra connection fee for going over the 8,000 gallons. We're not doing that. Have never done it?
Are we gonna charge? No.
it's just like this cemetery thing you're talking about. You let one person come in with a bench,
Tom, you want to add something here? I'd like to hear what you got to say.
good luck, you know? I did everything they asked, everything by the book.
Okay, let Tom sneak
Yeah.
in there and
Yeah.
steal the mic for a second.
My recollection, and part of the difference here, you keep bringing up Zorba's only had one. That was part of the Phase 1 area, and that was financed with a GO bond, a revenue bond, and some money from that stock sale. All of the Phase 1. Scott is not in Phase 1. And that's, so it's not necessarily apples to say, compare them to Zorba's who only paid one. All of the businesses, Pat Netco, she only paid one. You know, that was part of the financing to get the system up and running. We had to do, we had to basically subsidize things with that, not only the bond issues, but the phone company stock sale money to get a big enough area. And there was supposed to be a Phase 1 area, a Phase 2 area, a Phase 3 area. And so, I guess all I'm saying is, don't compare it to Zorba's and only one, because it was a different program, just like what's going on now with Moonlight Square and their car wash. They were not in the Phase 1 area. This is now extending into new areas, and
they are going to pay
things have changed
multiple
in
connection
20 years.
charges. Okay, the new ones are going to pay multiple connection charges,
Yep.
depending
And
on
that's,
water use.
well, that's probably next on the agenda.
Trying
One
to
of
figure
the
out what that is.
Public Works motions was for Moonlight Square, and Moonlight Car Wash, that the engineer would make the best guess estimate, and we've got some meter readings on those already. So the engineer would make a best guess estimate, and then we would monitor for 1 year from the time they connect. At the end of that 1 year, it'll be reconciled, and if they paid 2 extra connection charges, they'll get a refund. If they paid
Right.
1 too many.
We'll do the math on as it goes.
Yeah, so-
But so how do we handle Scott here now? That was in 2017, the original was 2002.
that Phase 1 over there?
No.
Town Square?
I would
Square was,
recommend,
but it never went across the highway.
No, but I hooked into Phase 1. This is what my
Right.
point is. I hooked into Phase 1. I agreed to pay to bore instead of. Microphone, please.
But Scott, you would have had to bore regardless. Today, you would have to bore it if you did it.
Not if I put in pressure beds, I wouldn't have.
No, but if you hook up to the city sewer.
Today I
you
would, yeah. Yeah, correct. No,
Can-
I'm not arguing that fact.
how about if Peter pulls the Public Works notes from back then? Because I do remember this, Ted was monitoring the effluent for different things that would ruin whatever was going into the plant, or how the plant operated, so.
Oh, we had to.
I don't remember all the details, but the notes on here were probably, they were written either by Chris or Cheryl. And you got a copy, that's.
Yeah, there's 3
That
different.
wasn't added like
Well,
5
there's
years
3
later.
different handwritings on
Right,
there.
and I think the only thing that I know is that we're following the policy that we have enforced today about
And if you-
volume. That's
If
what
you
we're
pull
looking
up,
at.
if you remember, the reason for the additional hookup fee would have been if we did the touchless car wash. We did not do that.
But see, I don't think our policy says things, it just, it
No, that
goes
was
on
our-
a unit. I know, but,
Yeah, but that was our agreement.
yeah, that's why I'm saying just pull the,
But what if you sold the car wash, you built a hotel there? That wouldn't hold true. I mean, you can't do something for all the time that you're not going to charge anymore. Huh?
Say that again?
I mean, right?
Say that again?
Well, if you decide not to run a car wash and you're going to put a hotel in there, you're going to pay more connection charges
If
based
I'm
on
going to
that.
add on to the situation, yes. I'm not adding on to the car wash. So therefore, I don't feel there should be another charge.
So you're recommending go back and look at the notes?
yeah, I think we just
The time
kick it
of
to
this,
next,
when
but
it
yeah,
happened?
let's see what the Public Works meetings were all about then.
You want to
Well, I-
you want to spend that much time on it, go ahead. but I'm gonna fetch it.
I think that the note should have been for a touchless car wash, that it would have been a change use and using more water, and that's probably
And that's
what
what we agreed
occurred.
on. That is exactly how it went.
Scott, the only thing we have here is continuous monitoring of affluent. Any outflow exceeding 8,000 gallons will be charged another one. That's the only thing we have.
That's office use only. So that was never brought up in the meeting. It was about the touchless.
Okay, well, let's make a motion to table it, and we'll look into it. Come back.
Table it pending review of the Public Works meetings discussing this connection.
They just did. Well, I'll second it so we can discuss it. But read down and see what the Public Works Commission recommends.
I'm talking in 2017.
2017. Go back to when this
That's,
was.
we don't have that, documents. And I don't remember everything, right?
So you think the minutes from 2017 are going to say that an additional connection fee will be charged if he goes over that 8,000 gallons?
That's not what I think. I don't know what
Yeah.
was on the note.
But I mean,
But I
that's
wanna
what
see-
you're asking for, is that
But-
kind of information, or whether it was an
Before-
additional hookup for the touchless car wash.
Before this was
whatever it
even
is.
brought up or on the agenda, you should have looked into that. I mean,
Dave, I don't think.
You
that
know,
was
this
even
is
brought
all
up
putting the
Public
cart
Works.
ahead of the horse again.
This was a deal worked out here at City Hall. It wasn't a deal that was worked out at Public Works, because it shouldn't have gone to Public Works, it should have gone to planning, and it did not.
It was a mess. I agree, it was a mess.
Well, I know it didn't go to planning, because I was chairing planning in 17.
This all started in 2011, and it took us that
I
long.
remember it.
It took us that
Yeah.
long to get it approved
Yeah.
because all the,
Ted spearheaded this to get it rolling,
But then it went over to
because he
planning.
understood the issues. I don't remember that it was in planning.
And planning was
And it was
never
in Public
involved in the
Works, so-
agreement that came up, the planning commission. I don't know about planning.
Sewer-related thing, so.
Public Works. Well, Scott, let's just table it for a month and look into it. I mean, you're right, cart before the horse. We should have looked into it more before it
yeah,
came.
I mean, I got documentation from day one, so if you need anything from me,
Yep.
um,
So you made a motion to table, you second.
Yes.
Discussion, all done?
If you're going to do that, go back to that same time period for the planning commission, so we don't end up delaying it another month,
Yeah.
okay?
Is that clear, Shar, what that motion is, just to go back?
Look in both groups.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, all in favor. And that's a motion to table. Yeah.
Am I glad that we didn't send him a bill?
Yeah, that's,
All right, let's go to item D. Item D is a memo from Public Works Commission with a recommendation talking about connection fees. And Tom already talked a little about that earlier. And what they came up with was they're recommending is let's come up with our best estimate of what that connection fee should be based on the information we have when they connect, whenever that is, if it's next fall or whatever. And then revisit it after a year, so we know we've got some actual good data for it. That is a recommendation.
Mike, are they talking about doing this on all businesses? Because I believe, don't we have to attach meters to all that are commercial?
Yes,
So are we going to do the same thing with all of them that are
all three of them
commercial?
up there, yep.
Okay,
But not the lumberyard.
No, just these three
Just these three.
businesses, not
These
all
are
the
the three.
businesses.
We're just gonna revisit these three. We don't expect the lumberyard to get anywhere close to
okay.
more than one.
But the lumberyard will have a meter.
Yes.
Okay.
All commercial will have a meter.
That was my question.
Are we getting monthly readings? Yay.
Okay. I agree with what they have here.
So you need a motion just to move this forward and have Phil put a number together.
And
Yes.
You don't have any numbers, right? You just want direction to do that, to the best of your ability. Okay, Aaron, make that motion.
So are you going to charge the connection charge in advance from your year average, or what?
Yes, based on Phil.
What are you doing, Phil?
Everyone is pretty straightforward with those three. And like they're saying, we're gonna take our best shot at it, charge them, and then revisit it in a year and see if we overcharged them or undercharged them when we have a year of data. That makes sense? We will have data from January through, let's assume people hook up in September. We'll have about 9 months of data to go off, plus we have the summer, although that was 2019.
Are you going to make a guesstimate at it before September, though?
Yeah, we're gonna probably.
Just for budgeting and whatever?
Yeah.
I move that we follow Public Works Commission's recommendations, and we set up with the best guess that we can do and charge them, and we move forward.
I'll second that.
Okay, any other discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Mike, you're doing that, aren't you? Yeah.
Okay, item E. This was some comments and a motion coming out of the Public Works Commission from a week ago, and it's really addressing the overriding issue of how do we want to handle assessments. One of the things that came up, I mean, I'm not going to read the whole motion to you. I think you get the gist of it. But the issue was, you know, we've got a committee, which is essentially volunteers, Public Works, that meet. They spend a lot of time debating, lots of consternation, lots of headaches over the assessment policy. And their general feeling is they're coming up with recommendations and the council's not following them. So that's really where the issue is, correct?
I think since they made a motion for the record that it should be read. I don't care who reads it, if you want to read it or if Shar wants to read it. It should be read because the public don't have it in front of them.
Would you like me to read it? Would the council like me to read it?
Yeah, you probably should.
The
they
subject, this is a memo to the City Council from the Public Works Commission dated June 8th, 2022. The subject is the assessment policy. At the Public Works Commission meeting of June 6th, 2022, the following motion was made. A motion was made by Tom Swenson and seconded by Gordy Wagner to express to the City Council and the Commission's concern with the recent action of 3 council members that chose to ignore the adopted assessment policy and not assess benefiting properties on County Road 66 sewer extension project. Will the council now abate and refund sewer assessment imposed on property that was assessed for sewer benefits on Daggett Bay Road? And what will be the policy for properties along Norway Trail and Brook Street that are interested in connecting to city sewer? Of equal concern is the precedent not following the assessment policy could have on assessing benefiting properties for road improvements. The city is responsible for maintaining approximately 60 miles of roads and will be required to spend massive dollars on maintenance, overlays, and reconstruction on these roads as these roads reach the end of their useful life. Assessing properties which benefit from public improvements is a common city practice and helps reduce the tax burden on the rest of the taxpayers. Ayes, Tom Swenson, Tim Berg, Gordy Wagner, Mick Cheetah, nay, Bob Frey. That was the motion.
Do you want to finish up those last two just to give them the full
Sure.
picture?
The two paragraphs below it state, "A lengthy discussion ensued regarding the amount of time and years the commission spent working on a policy, and the disappointment of the commission felt the policy was ignored. The commission questioned why there is a commission and why they make recommendations to the council if they aren't listened to. Dave Nevin stated the sewer assessment policy was not fair, and he does not regret his vote to not assess. The commission asked how the council will move forward with road assessments. Char Nelson stated that she has received calls from property owners on every road that is being reconstructed saying they will not pay an assessment. The mayor stated that the plan is to continue assessing for roads." That's all that's on that page.
So now we're asking, what are we going to do?
What needs to happen, in my opinion, is before we issue bonds, we need to know the answer to that question. Now, remember, we did an appraisal for those properties. There was a range set. The city was not at the bottom of the range. They were not at the top. They were in the middle. So when the appraisals were done for the benefit, the dollar benefit to that property, I think I can speak for Phil on this too. We believe that the appraisal will hold up, and that's why we did it that way. Because you have to show benefit. We have an appraisal that does that.
Where the problem came in are the properties that were being assessed a large chunk that was not fitting to what they owned at the time. I mean, there's a few properties that caused a lot of grief with it. I've had one citizen explain to me that this is the extension of the initial sewer project, phase 1, that does the commercial district on the water. And that's why she believes that it was a fair way to assess it based on the way the first one was assessed. Moving forward, we should continue the assessment policy, make sure that it's a fair assessment, and assess for sewer projects and road projects moving forward. And, you know, I don't know if I understand it or believe it all, but her connection between the first phase and this phase, because it was a commercial district on the water, the association there was pretty clear and tied them together. I don't know, Brad, maybe that should be yours. What's your opinion of that? Or does that have any standing?
I don't know what the question is.
Well, if we did the first phase on the commercial district on the water, sewer. Now, this is the last phase up here. It's commercial district for the most part. You know, there were residents on the first one too, but. So she did the association do it the same way, which is what we did, adjusting dollars. Now moving forward, can we go back to our assessment policy and make sure that the assessments are fair? Roads and sewer moving forward.
Well, I don't know what that fair means. I mean, you had a committee tried to agree what fair was. When you go to a public meeting, my experience sitting through 100 assessment projects, much more than you've gone through. I've never been to an assessment meeting where the president thought the assessment was fair. Never been to one. So good luck with that.
Yeah.
If you want to do assessments, you're going to get the residents argue with you. That's the nature of the beast.
If I could say one thing here, the 66, when you talk about the pavement, the overlay, that part of it is county is paying for that. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so the county is paying that part of that assessment for that. The other assessments on the other 3 road projects we have are separate. That's a different issue. Those are city streets. We are assessing a city fee to go on that. So there is no apples and apples comparison, not even close. So as far as I'm concerned, the assessment on the other roads stands. If they don't want to pay it, that's up to them. It'll go onto their taxes and we move forward.
So that's your feeling on the road projects?
Yes.
What's your feeling on the sewer projects moving forward?
As far as I'm concerned, as long as I'm on the council, I'm going to vote no on anything going anywhere with the sewer system again. This has been such a fiasco, I can't even imagine. I think it needs to stop and end here and now, till something clears up and happens.
Well, I think if we would use the sewer ordinance and use the sewer user categories, we could have gotten through this whole assessment thing without a problem.
I don't disagree with you, Marcia,
Well,
but that didn't happen.
yeah, it didn't happen, and it should have. We shot ourselves in the foot. That's what we did, because we adopted an assessment policy that we didn't follow. We have an ordinance that we did not follow.
I agree.
The issue that I had with it was not necessarily the residential fees, was the big fees that they were way out of whack in my world.
Right.
And I know that there was some discussion up here, but no one ever made a motion to use a flat fee for a commercial entity. That might have gone through, but there was any of the work that I did to look at what the appraiser appraised and using the so many cents or dollars per square foot, I couldn't get the number down to anything that made sense that you could charge somebody.
The user categories, the stuff that I showed you,
Then we should have talked about getting into user categories, but we never did. We never
Right.
got that.
because I kept on asking, are you going to ignore the
Any
ordinance?
motion made?
The problem is, we put some good people through hell, pardon my language, but we put some good people through a lot to come up with a policy that we voted to approve.
Right.
And then we just turned around and slapped them in the face for what I'd consider poor reasons.
So I have one question for you then, based on the comments you made. Are we saying we're okay with the road policy and the appraisal that we've got done for the roads we're currently working on or near completion? And if so, then I would ask the council to direct staff to come up with the assessment hearings and timelines and get rolling on that so we know where we're going to end up and can get the financing finalized for these things.
So we should probably take a vote here, though, Mike, and find out if we are all on board with that.
That would
With
be good.
assessments?
Right?
I mean, that's what we
Right.
got to do.
Yeah. I don't think I'm understanding, Mike, I'm sorry.
Well, I think we're past the assessment for the 66 road project.
Yeah.
Because the assessment was for the cost of the sewer pipe. It wasn't for the road, right? Everyone understands that.
Yes.
And so the assessment for the cost of the sewer pipe was essentially waived. And now for the sewer project, we're just looking at determining what those final numbers are for connection charges, okay? So that one, we don't have to talk about anymore, or at least tonight. With road projects, 3 road projects we did, those were the ones that we're talking about. Do you still want to assess for those road projects for the cost of the road repairs for those projects? Or do you want to not do that?
So I'm going to make a motion that we continue our original road assessment for the road projects.
I second it.
Okay. So now we'll find out where we stand.
Okay, could you also direct staff to put
Can I-
together a schedule for
Can I
hearings?
validate what they said?
Sure.
4,000 per lot for full reclamation and 1,000 for,
Overlay.
I'm sorry,
Overlay.
for overlay, yes. Are we talking, so we're all on the same page?
Yep.
Is that accurate, Phil? Yeah, there is no more overlay. Okay.
So we're in discussion, right?
Yep.
So this will go to the attorney. So I'm getting emails. I'm not paying the road assessment. You just let the sewer project go without an assessment. Is that valid? That they're going to say that we said no assessments for that project, so you can't assess us on the street project?
I think there's two different arguments there. One is a legal argument, the other is political. When it comes to the legal argument, the sewer project, for example, was very legal. Zoning is all that matters. We had appraisals that you would have won if you wanted to go there, you didn't want to go there. Now you're asking, the next project legally, there's no, the law has not changed. This is state law, there's thousands of cities. Assessment law has been going around forever. So what you did or didn't do didn't change the law. Politically, there's a different matter. I don't, people might not like to get assessed if you let one neighborhood get off the hook, is their perception. But that's not a legal analysis.
But but if they appeal it based on, we let the other ones go free?
Whether, the court's not gonna care what you did with
Okay.
66.
All right.
So the other issue that I've heard is, and Mike can probably verify this, for years we've done, in my time here, Manhattan Point Boulevard,
An Anchor Point.
Anchor Point, put in a bike lane, Urban, over here on Cross. And we seem like financially, we have the levy set that we can pay for these things if we schedule them out. For many years, we never did any roads, and then we started to doing. What's your thought on that? I mean, are we gonna go in the poorhouse if we don't?
That's really up to the council. If you remember, back in 2013, 2014, when Dan Vogt was here, we had worked with David Drown and Associates, and we came up with a plan that after about, a certain amount of time, it would be self-funding. And what the city had historically done is they provided, the city staff knew how much the public would tolerate for a reasonable levy and how it could be spent. And there was always a certain provision built in there, some stuff for roads, whatever that number was. There was a number we had that we said, we know we're going to spend this amount of money on the things that we need to run the city. Some of that was equipment, some of it was roads. What happens is if you provide a provision for doing those roads and then you change your mind and don't do them, you still get the money. You can't turn the levy off after you set it. And so what was happening in the projects you're referring to, Mr. Schrupp, was those were years where we had levied, like we always did, to provide some money for roads, so we wouldn't have to have a huge bond issue when we needed to issue it, and there were adequate funds to do the things we needed to do. When we change our plan and don't do the road, the money still came in. And what was happening is we were building fund balance, and we had built enough money by not doing the projects that we could pay for the projects without having to issue bonds for it. And that's why we paid for those. Now, should we have done that? Politically, maybe not. Maybe we should have kept the money and assessed them. But the decision at that time was you had the options to do either one, and the option chosen was to pay for it because we were building cash to do just those things. They were just different roads, is what it came to. So now what we've tried to do is we've said, you know what, we're gonna make these roads specific because back in, I think, 2019 or 18, when the policy was approved, we have a good policy. We had a plan for the roads. And when we do a road, we can build the financial plan based around the city's policy for assessments and whatever level of debt we needed to issue to pay for it over a shorter term. And so we were shooting in that, 7 to 10 year range for bonding instead of 15 to 20 because rates were favorable. We could issue roads and it wouldn't impact the levy a whole lot in a negative manner. But when we switch again now this year and we say, well, we're not going to do an assessment, it changes how we have to do the bond issue. We still issue a bond in the same level for the project because we need the cash to pay for it. What changes is how we pay back the bonds to the bondholders when the project is done and we have to make principal and interest payments. Instead of having assessments come in to cover some of the bond payments, we have to use levy because we didn't assess for it. You can do that. You just have to plan for it, and it takes several years of consistent operation to do that. Where you get into trouble is if we keep changing our mind and we don't follow our plan.
Okay, we do have an assigned balance for roads, $333,000.
And that is built into this year's road projects, yes. Capital projects. We
That
hadn't-
was for
at the-
roads.
At the time we did that, we still hadn't determined what level of road, if it was full-depth reclamation or just an overlay. So that's what was built in there for stuff we knew we would spend. Now we've changed that. We don't have overlays. We've got 3 full-depth reclamations, or, yeah, 3 and then a chip seal. So,
But
yeah,
but it
yeah.
doesn't matter what you're doing. You have $333,000 for roads, assigned, fund balance,
That's
assigned fund
correct,
balance.
but we don't have enough to cover all of the road projects.
No, it's 600 and whatever, 660,000 or
Right.
whatever it is.
And
So
that's-
when does the county pay us for the overlay? We're financing the county, right?
Yes.
We could, yep.
No, I'm asking that. I'm asking, this road out 66, are they paying us right away for the overlay? Or is it in our contract and we're paying it? When are they paying us for that? When are they going to reimburse us for the overlay?
2024.
Okay,
So
so
the
we're
question-
financing that for 2
So the
years.
question is, do we want to carry the cost of that ourselves, because we have the ability to do that? Or do we want to issue bonds to cover their costs and adjust the payment, the bond repayments on the back, structure the bond repayment to reflect the timing when we are repaid? That's the same question we've been talking about for months now. The same with the assessment. So we're making progress on that. We've got the sewer project. Now we've moved to the roads.
So how much is the overlay on 66?
The county's share of the project is $504,000 in round numbers.
Storm and road,
Yep.
yeah. Storm, sewer, and road.
I know, but we're financing it for them
Yeah.
for 2 years.
Let's not dig up too much mud here. We've been talking about
Well-
that for 2 years.
Well,
I'm
Let's
that's what
try
we
to
agreed
figure
to
out
do.
What we're going to do with this assessment.
And so that's how we're moving forward, how you've decided to move forward.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can see very clearly both sides of it. We did Manhattan Point, we did Anchor Point in urban. I wasn't really aware of that, but,
You've got a motion sitting on the table.
yeah. So, well, it's still discussion though. Is there anything else anybody wants to say about it? Can we open it up to public in the middle of a motion? I don't think we can. Huh?
Better.
Better? Yeah, okay, well, come on up then.
Don't take
Just so everyone's clear, when you talk about assessments, the taxpayers are still paying the majority of that road. But the benefiting properties are gonna have some skin in the game. And like our motion said, there's approximately 60 miles of roads that are reaching the end of their useful life. And you're gonna be spending massive dollars on these roads, and the property owners benefit when there's a new blacktop road in front of their, you know, for $4,000 to get a brand-new road that's reconstructed, that'll last for 20, 30, 40 years,
Yeah.
you know, and the overlay, it's a joke, $1,000, but at least they got some skin in the game. You know, what would have happened, what do you think would have happened on Big Pine Trail if the city said, oh, we're just gonna redo the road and reconstruct it and not assess? You'd have done it. Nobody would have said anything, but because they had some skin in the game, the residents came forward and said, oh, no, I think the road
Good enough.
is probably good enough. You know, if somebody else is gonna pay for it, versus you have a different philosophy of how badly your road needs it. And a lot of these roads, you know, in the next 10 years, we're gonna have a lot of roads that, and, you know, I'm gotta be careful how I say this, you know, because, you know, I said my piece on what happened with the sewer, that's water over the dam. I feel the same way about Manhattan Point and Anchor Point. It's water over the dam. You know, the fact that those roads were financed by the city, we can't continue to do it forever just because those roads were done. Just like the sewer, you know, it's 20 years later and we hear the argument, well, 20 years ago, you charged them this much. At some point, this city can't just keep bonding for everything and paying for everything. The benefiting property owners need to have some skin in the game. And Mike's been after, trying to, he's going into the budget thing, and he needs to know, are you gonna assess or are you not gonna assess? What are the connection charges gonna be, so he can do the bond issue so that he knows what his payments are for next year to put in the budget. So, your time is running out. I mean,
Well taken.
it's almost like, you're about ready, if you're gonna do the assessments on the roads, you need to direct staff to do it, and probably your next meeting, you set the date. They've got to do resolutions that follow the 429. A lot of these projects, in order to do the bonds, you've got to be assessing 20%. And some of these projects, you'll probably be assessing 30 or 40%. Some, we just barely were going over 20%. But the balance of that is paid by the rest of the taxpayers.
Yep.
And I think that's where the 4 commissioners were coming from, that, we're sitting on that board to represent the taxpayers. And I think everyone feels that the benefiting property owners need some skin in the game too.
Thanks, Tom.
So.
Okay. Somebody,
Blue shirt.
come on up. Hi.
My name's Steve Johnston. I'm on Birch Narrows Road. I argue that, a special assessment brings value to a property, right? And that's what we're saying here, of $4,000. It doesn't improve my property. I could not get $4,000 more for my property when to go to sell it. If you go to a realtor, there's a little checkbox that says, is it a paved road or is it a dirt road? Nothing really on our road has improved. And I always understood that's why I pay local taxes, is when there's an end of life for a road, I've paid in over years and years and years my taxes, and it should be replaced.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Anybody else? We're going to close public forum. Okay. Last one.
I'm Doug Haynes. I live on Wildman Ranch Drive, which is just about done with its improvement. I agree with him. Why not just take these projects and levy it over the whole city? We're getting a new road. Is there a financial benefit? No. Am I going to be able to sell my house for more? No. So you can't do one thing for one group and then do something different for another. According to him, we don't have a leg to stand on here. If you decide to assess, you're going to assess, but I think you need to do the right thing and just do the same thing for everyone.
Okay, thanks, Doug. So John, you made a motion to assess. Did I second it, or did you hear it? Who seconded it?
Dave made the motion and John seconded.
Okay. So we got a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor of doing the assessment as proposed?
Can I have the motion read?
Okay, go ahead, Chair.
To continue road assessments at $4,000 for the full reclamation. I took out the 1,000 for overlays because we don't have any of those.
Okay.
But in the future, we could.
Okay.
I think that needs to be left in there.
But it could be different in the future too. The sitting council can choose to.
Yeah,
Yep.
leave it
Okay.
out. Okay, all in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Where are you, Marcia?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain. Okay, so the motion carries. Assessments are on.
Maybe we should do it in How do you feel about the other streets? Dave, how do you feel about the other streets? You want to assess them?
Oh,
That's why you're abstaining, is because you live on Wildwood Drive or Ranch or wherever.
policy, is that what you're asking them?
What was the question?
I know. I'm saying, should we do 2 motions so you can vote on the other roads, and then we'll do Wildwood, so that you can vote on the assessment instead of abstaining? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so motion carries 4-1. Sure got quiet in here.
Okay, we're moving on to item F. So while Phil comes up here, we're talking about Birch Narrows Road. There's some subgrade issues we saw on the road. Basically, it was kind of squishy after the work was done on it, so we need to do more work on the road. The 2 options are, 1, do nothing, hope it gets better, and then fix it before the ground freezes, or take care of it now and be done with it. And it's about $20,000 to fix the subgrade to keep rolling. Just go ahead, Phil.
So you're talking about Wildwood Ranch?
No, we're talking about Birch Narrows.
If you've been on Birch Narrows, we've got a first lift of paving on all but except the 500
Okay.
feet closest to the county road.
Okay.
And that, we discontinued paving, the contractor discontinued paving because that subgrade map was basically failing when they were trying to pave. So it's like we're indicating in here, there's always the chance to leave it heal. Traffic runs on it. If we don't have a lot of rain, it could heal up. It's kind of a hope.
Did you do borings on that road?
We did borings right on the corner, and it was silty sand. So, I mean, it indicates, based on the boring, that it's something that can be built on. The end of it, where the cul-de-sac is, we actually had a boring towards the end, in the middle, and on initially where the sharp curve is. The end is pretty good. Built the road fairly well there. The middle is decent, but it has a couple pockets where there must, we had noticed some subgrade issues when they were paving. We recommended they hold off, try and heal those up. I think they were trying to get it covered. They were on a schedule. I think they felt too that if this continues to get wet, at least if we cover it, doesn't get as wet. And then by the time we got to the end of it, it was pretty clear that they were just wasting pavement if they would have continued on to finish it, so. So
this
it's really a
correction is
question of doing
$20,000.
going proactively and trying to, get the material out of there, spend money to get, so you can get the road done, or let time heal it. But again, we might be back here in September saying to you the same thing, it didn't heal up. Do you want to try and get this subgrade out? We're recommending you be proactive. It is a cost, but we want to build a good road there. We're concerned if we don't, that
Yeah, I think
it's going to have a problem over time anyway.
I would make a motion to fix it.
I second it.
Is it 14996 or is it?
It's 19,106.07 is the estimate, but it's on,
That is the estimate.
but
Okay.
it's a square yard basis, so if we don't do as much, it could be less. And then there's always a contractor that has a markup fee. So.
Thank you.
You
Motion
haven't
and a
paved
second.
anything?
What's that?
You haven't paved anything?
We've paved, in terms of Birch Narrows?
Yeah, Birch.
We've paved probably 2/3 or 3/4 of it with one lift. It gets 2 lifts of pavement. So the idea would be we'd pull out this 500 feet, salvage what we can, rebuild it with fabric and sand, pave out the last 500 feet of the base course, and then we come back and we have one more lift of wear course to put on it. So a lot of
So are we
pavement.
going to be redoing the stuff you've already paved?
Only, we have patch areas, about 6 areas of patch that we're gonna take the blacktop off and pull those up. Those are much smaller than this. And the contractor's paying for some of that stuff because we told them in advance, don't pave.
Okay.
Motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries, all in favor.
Next item is a pay application. It's pretty standard. This is for the 2022 road improvements. It's pay application one. Essentially gives you the value of the work. We retain 5% as part of our contract. We won't pay out that 5% until we're final, all done, wrapped up. So they've got about half of the work completed based on the numbers here. So we're recommending payment to them in the amount of $285,704.14. And that's for the 2022 road improvements.
I move we make the payment of $285,704.14.
I'll second that. That's to Anderson.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The next one then is the CASA 66 sanitary sewer extension. This is pay application number one. That again that's to Casper Construction for work completed through May 27th. They've completed about $162,169 in work. We retain 5% again, so the amount that we're recommending to pay is $154,060.73.
I'll make a motion to pay application number one to Casper in the amount of $154,060.73.
Second.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And then the final update, and this was information that was provided with the Public Works, but so Aaron, you talked about overlay. Originally, Whitefish was going to be an overlay, and the decision was made to make it a seal coat with patching. So we have a quote from Anderson Brothers that we're going forward with to do the patching in advance of the crack sealing. It's within what we budgeted. We were loosely budgeting $30,000 to $50,000 in patching, it depending on the extent of stuff that we marked out. So the idea is the patching happens and then the seal coat happens on top. The county's handling the seal coat. They just informed us that seal coating is going to start June 20th somewhere in the county, and that contractor only needs 1 week to complete all the work. So Anderson Brothers was planning to come today and do the patching on Whitefish, or at least start it, but I think with the rains they held off. So we anticipate that action will happen pretty quickly with the patching and then seal coating to follow on Whitefish.
Phil, what's going to happen? Because I'm looking at this 2-3 of these roads right back here on this detour. They're really getting beat.
Yeah, they are.
Daylights out of them.
Gentleman that came up early and talked about the shouldering, I drove it right before the meeting, actually ran out to Whitefish to kind of check on it to see if they had patched anything. But yeah, the shoulders are beat up. Everyone's taking turns too sharp. I know Public Works staff has a ton on their plate, but we need to get some some aggregate down in the shoulders. I came here on Saturday or Sunday, just to check on something, and followed I think it's Roma food trucks, and instead of our signs saying go around, it came up the local detour. And it's odd to see a semi-tractor trailer driving on Daggett Bay.
That's not the only one.
Brook, I know it. And then, and not picking on Moonlight, because I love Moonlight Bay, that restaurant, but that was its destination. It came up, spun around. I didn't know a tractor trailer could spin around and do a U-turn like that at the 16 intersection so that it could back into Moonlight Bay. So this local detour, two-edged sword here, it's getting used, but it's getting beat up. And I think that
But I think it's beyond use, it's now abuse.
Right. You're going to be, if you thought you could do an overlay to it, maybe that's still an option on part of it, but there'll be patching and overlay. Very likely it's going to be, depending on how quickly you get at it, might be just a reclamation type project, because it's seeing traffic loads and capacity way beyond what it was ever built to.
There's some of them have figured out an alternate through the community, and it's kind of interesting to watch.
I imagine if you
amazed
live there,
some
it's not
dog
ultimate.
or
It's
kid or
not
somebody has been-
interesting to watch,
Has been ran over.
but anyway,
crazy.
that's our update. So I don't know if you have
Thanks,
any
Bill.
questions, but.
May I ask a question about the sewer digging? How are we on terms of being on time and getting phase one done by
So,
early July?
We are on time. We're making good progress there. So originally, the plan was phase one would be up to Daggett Pine or the Community Center Road by July 1. What the contractor did is they actually decided for ease of their operations and maintaining access better, they went up and they turned phase one into a phase 1A and a phase 1B. So phase 1A is they brought sanitary sewer basically up to the middle of the log church parcel. And they got that, after they got the sanitary sewer all installed, now they're gonna drop back and they're gonna bring storm sewer up to that point, get that first pond built, and then they're gonna gravel that entire road before they venture north on 1B. So I think it was a good solution for them not to tear the whole thing up, get all the way down, then come all the way back. I think the people from Log Church down are gonna get kind of the first bitter pill, but then they're gonna be kind of back to an aggregate, very travelable road, and it'll be the next group that'll get the next one.
Thanks for the heads up.
How does that affect the overall schedule, July 1st up to the?
It's still the same. It's just an internal decision they made to break their first phase into two. And our only I'd say the only issue we're really having is, for some reason, the project is a magnet for people wanting to drive through it and go across people's yards. And that's just, they're cutting through the former City Hall property. They're cutting through private property. They're cutting through the church. I mean, it's just, I don't know, like we talked in our meeting that we probably just need to shell out some tickets, but.
Spike strips, Eric? Huh?
Spike strips.
Sure.
I'll tell you what,
Not
they
that Eric
get down in
doesn't
my
have anything
neighborhood
else
and they
to-
start stopping cars, they're gonna have a riot.
Yeah.
Because they'll stop the whole traffic flow.
Yeah, we gotta get through it.
Oh, I get to go next after that.
Public safety, come on up.
You didn't think you're gonna get off that easy, did you?
Good evening. So, not so good news on the speed humps.
You can't return them.
Not without a 25% restocking. So, $10,000, just about, we spent on that, not saying that we can't use them. But if we sent them back, it would cost us, well, with shipping, it would be about $3,200 to send them back. Now, TJ and I have talked, and what happened, and this is not something I understood when I purchased them, they come out in 16 or 18-inch panels. And each panel is got 4 lag bolts that go into the pavement. And with the amount of traffic that's going back there, it's amazing how much local traffic we have. I didn't realize that we had that much.
Wait till
But
July.
with the local traffic, I mean, the guys would have had to go out at 3 o'clock in the morning to install them because there would have been no way around to get around back here or out front here. And then add to it the storm damage. And the guys just have no time. There's just no way that they can install these things. And now looking at the way the road bed is, I think you'd tear it up if you put 30 lag bolts through the pavement.
Yeah, I think you
So-
should return them, Eric.
I do too.
Okay.
It's sad you have to pay it,
Okay.
but I've done it before, just get some money out of them.
And then I think you should write 5 tickets a week out on that stretch of road.
Yeah, okay.
You're gonna slow the traffic down if you do that.
Well, I'm putting out the squad car.
Or at least the first week.
I'll put that out, when we can. And that seems to have an effect on people in the city because they all comment about the ghost squad. So, when I put it out here in front of City Hall. TJ potentially has use for those speed humps down at the park. And we will also be looking at South Bay at some point in time, and a road going into South Bay and where we could certainly use those. And the Public Safety Committee last year recommended putting speed humps in Andy's parking lot. So.
They're gonna be popping up though, and you're gonna have bolts and tires and plowing snow and.
Supposedly, when they're installed, they work well, and then you have to uninstall them, obviously take them out come wintertime. So it's up to the council, whatever you want me to do.
Can Anderson Brothers blacktop some humps in? Have you ever asked that question?
I haven't asked that question, I don't know.
Well, but then you've
To
got
what
12
cost?
months a year.
Our guys might have to go to the chiropractor too after hitting them with the plow.
I was
They're
gonna
not
say,
gonna hit
that
'em with
becomes
the
quite an
plow.
interesting ride when you're.
It's hard to see when there's 12 inches of snow. My concern with the community center, regardless of what we come up with the new playground, obviously we got pickleball. We're gonna have a lot more kids running across the parking lot, and people go well over 15, 20 miles an hour in a parking lot. So whatever we come up with, whether it be these, whether it be something, I need something in there to protect these kids from running across the parking lot.
What happened to the ones you had?
They're too short, they drive around them, which makes it even worse, because then they're driving closer to the cars.
The kid pops out.
So those are 6 feet wide, these would be 10 feet wide. And again, do we want to get into putting 30-some leg bolts in the ground, or come up with some different options? But I'm a little bit concerned, because we're going to have a higher influx of kids for sure, and just regular patrons of any age.
Can you keep some and return some?
Yep.
Maybe that's the solution.
Can I talk to Eric and we can take a peek at them and see if they'd work out for us? Maybe.
I suppose you could try some someplace, but I got a feeling they're gonna come out, they're just gonna be a mess.
The smaller ones we had, it's the middle meat section and then just the 2 end caps, and they didn't come out over 3 months. They stayed in the ground pretty well. I mean, these leg bolts are 12 inches long.
And my understanding was we were ordering 10-foot sections. Well, so if it's 12 feet across or more, or 10 feet, whatever it might be, we can, put that in, whatever we need to do, because there's 18 or 16-inch sections.
Yeah.
So,
More pieces to come apart.
Yeah, more bolts to put in, yeah. I don't care what you do. I think you should send them back, but whatever. Throw some 2x12s down there.
and then spend $12,000 with 2x12s.
I think what we're seeing is it's just a lot of pieces, a lot of bolts. So maybe we'd go with the first recommendation, and then you can direct me and Eric to come up with a better solution for
How
the
many
community center.
6-footers do you have?
2. We had one by the playground and then one by the front door. And it's not the only issue of them speeding, it's they don't follow our signs that it's one-way parking lot. So now you got people who are accustomed just to looking one way, and others are going over 15, 20 miles an hour, coming the wrong way. So somehow we need to come up with a solution. And I will work with Eric to come up with one, and maybe we just go with your recommendation to take them back.
Yep. Personally, I think we can probably use half, for sure. And then our return fee would be $1,250, compared to $2,500. And we've got something useful that could be safe, or make some areas safer. So whatever you guys want to do, give me some direction and I'll do whatever you need.
Keep out what you feel that the city can use legitimately, return the rest. That's a motion.
I second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Carries.
Thank you, sorry about that. Secondly, in my list, in addition to the agenda, I just got this information today. If you recall, 2 months ago, you did a resolution regarding this, the Lex poll. And this did go to Sourcewell for the impact funding. Sourcewell awarded $131,659 for this project for 6 different departments in the area. Crow Wing County and Brainerd are already on it. Lexipol with their, so we'll have very like policies if we go forward with this. Now, the initial setup is about $8,500, I believe. So they would go through and they would take our policies, they would put them in their own wording, which is, again, like other departments in the area. And they would, that would all, the setup would be included in this cost. And it's basically from July 1st through the end of the year, and then next year. So 2023 is paid for. 2024, we'd have to take a look at next summer when we're budgeting to decide if this is something we want to go with. But the advantages of this are, like I said, like policies and training for the guys, for the officers, that they would have daily bulletins that they would train on every day. And they get some credit toward post credits with it, not a whole lot, but it's, 20 minutes a day, making them familiar, making them be familiar with our policies. So it's kind of a smart thing to do, kind of takes the liability out of it for us. So we already do have, well, part of our policy manual right now was back in 2012 when it was revised. And Chief Hartman at the time did go with Lexipol for that. And I think it was $6,000, and then he stopped it after that. The problem that we're having now is all of us are going through different policies and trying to get them figured out with legislature, in particular regarding use of force. This puts us all together. We have attorneys that are vetting it through Lexipol and using state law as guidance for
So
new
Eric, what are you
policies.
using right now comparable to this?
I am piecemealing everything together as much as I possibly can. And
So nothing?
No, I'm
Okay.
on the
At a
policies.
cost, is there a cost to what you're using?
A cost of what I'm using in my time.
Okay, but there is, we're not on a program that costs X.
No, we're
amount
not on a program right now.
that this is going to replace or
Right.
something.
One thing that if we do decide to do this, for 2 years, we have policies that are up to date. They are, there's, like I said, it's vetted by other attorneys, and we've got the right stuff. So,
When Post Board comes out and says you shall have a policy on
yep,
ABC, they go in and they create and work with that for you?
yep. Any legislative post board updates, anything like that, they will be notified of it and they will change it. I think there are, I can't remember how many departments are in the state are on this, and there are a lot though. So I just asking for your blessing and going through with this agreement.
It's a liability policy.
What do you got, any money for it any place, or where's it?
Not for next year, no.
Well, we have an
Well, for
assigned balance
2024.
for police equipment, $152,000.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, we'll see how this goes, and then when we start budgeting for 2024, I would take a look at it and see if this is something that we want to continue or something we just want
This
to.
takes us through next year.
Right, yep.
So this is a year and a half insurance policy as well.
Talk about a grant, how much, do you have any idea the size?
$131,000 is what,
For all six?
much do we
all
get?
for all
six
6
entities?
cities. Yep. So nothing matching. And next year, if it works out with all the agencies, they might go back to Sourcewell again and ask for more to continue this coverage.
So there's a grant for this.
There's a grant, yes, I told you that, it's Sourcewell.
I don't
Impact.
understand the grant though,
funds.
because it's $131,000 for 6 departments, and are we one of them?
We are one of them, yes.
And it's $8,000 each, times 6 is $48,000.
However, it works out, they got $131,000, it's not because a couple agencies pulled out at the last minute.
Well,
So
the county's probably
now
more
it's
or
from like 8 or 9, it's down to 6. So it might, I don't know how they'll use the excess money.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like we'd still end up paying 8,000.
We don't pay anything.
Not at this time.
Not at this time, not unless we decide that we want to carry it on in 2024.
Well, then why would we not do it,
Right.
is my question.
I make a motion, we have approved the Lexipol thing and not pay anything.
A second.
Could have saved himself.
Any other comments on that? All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Lastly, Mayor, do you want me to bring up, Aaron, do you want me to bring up what we discussed at the Public Safety Committee meeting regarding stop signs and the
Well,
whole thing?
if you want that, if you want to take it through here, I was kind of wondering why you didn't do anything. Yeah, let's talk about it.
So the Public Safety Committee recommended that we place stop signs, I believe, it was Tall Timbers Trail and Lumberjack, correct?
I thought it was the community center road where it
And
intersects
Community
there.
Center Road, and I
Yeah.
believe Kimberly and Lumberjack. Kimberly and Lumberjack is the one that scares me the most because I've seen a lot of people cut that curve from, or Kimball Road onto Lumberjack.
Well, the community center road too, I've had several people say they're coming from
Yep.
the community center down the hill, they don't see it, so.
I'll tell you what, they don't care if they see it at Tall Timbers.
Right.
They don't even care, they just drive through. When Bobby sits there, it's just hilarious to watch. Because here they come and they just lock them up, stop. And you wait for the crunch from behind. But I'll tell you what, it's effective what he's doing.
As long as he's there.
As long as he's there and we can't have him there.
Yeah.
I know tickets would be great to write, but what ticket do I write? A lot of it, we don't have a 20-mile-an-hour sign. We don't have fines double in work zone because it's not a work zone, it's a detour. I don't like to control traffic or speed using stop signs. But in this situation, I mean, people are cutting the corner and they're gonna have a head-on. We've already had the one stop sign taken out. I think it was the weekend, well, yeah, it was Memorial Day weekend.
Keep in mind, you're putting these in for 20 days.
Right.
You're putting them in for 20 days. You're not putting them in permanent.
I'd recommend stop signs because sometimes people don't think they need to use a turn signal.
Leave it up to
And
their discretion.
I'm up to leaving it to discretion, but I think some more stop signs would be helpful because people,
But they're a 20-day stop sign.
right.
People won't even get used to them being there in 20 days. That's what worries me.
Well, I'll get used to it right away.
One thing that a stop sign will do is it will make people, go out and turn left, not cut and turn left or, take a turn wide or, it might slow people down a little bit too, but I mean, the 23 miles an hour is too fast going around the curve from Brook to Kimball.
Well, it's only gonna get worse, so whatever
Yep.
you think you can do to leave an impression with them.
Any recommendations from you, Phil, or what do you think?
Put stop signs up, you better flag it like crazy,
Right?
because people are used to driving in a certain way. And they if you put stop signs up, then you have actually a ticketable.
Right.
Yeah.
Does that have to be done by resolution, or can we just do it?
I think we need to have a resolution, a motion.
We would need a motion.
So I'm gonna make a motion, but how do I tell you where to do it? Or do I tell you to just put, at least 2 stop signs up on the route? And see how that
Do
goes?
you wanna,
I think you need a council approval.
Yeah, okay, so I
we
make a
could say
motion.
at all three-way intersections, so that would include Daggett Bay Road to Brook. That would include Kimball to Lumberjack, Tall Timbers, Daggett Pine Road and
You know,
Miller Road.
I'll make a motion that we do that. I'd rather err on the side of caution than have somebody.
I'll second that, David.
Okay, any other discussion on it?
Do we have 8 signs available?
I have no idea. I will do some checking with the guys tomorrow.
Do what you
Joe
can
and
do.
Seth, and
See
if
if
they
you
don't
can-
have it, then we'll steal from the county.
Go 50 Lakes or something still.
All right, and we can take a couple out of intersections up there. Okay.
I just cringe at the thought of it, but.
All right, we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Eric. Public forum action may or may not be taken on the issues raised. If council requires more information or time for consideration, the issue will be placed on the next regular council meeting. Speaker must state their name and address. Come on up, Pat.
Pat Netco, 36084 County Road 66, Cross Lake. Where to start? Let's see. I still find it amazing that the timing of this project has happened during our busy summer tourist season on which our community depends. We would not have this traffic issue on this detour if it was not done in the high traffic busy season. Gas prices heading up to $5 a gallon. Our delivery trucks are struggling to get our product to us. Our product is hard to get anyway. I feel that, and I've stated this before, the communication about this project and when it's happened did not happen. So I am asking for, and Dave, you had mentioned before the roundabout. I would like to call this, and I think this is what the grant is from the County Road 3 and 66 Improvement Project, because I don't think there's anything stated anywhere that we're getting a roundabout. So I think the public discussion that needs to happen with the county and here needs to be started from this council to the county, not waiting for the county to come to us to have public discussion.
Would you repeat your title, please?
The County Road 3 and County Road 66 Improvement Project. This is-
Intersection improvement, was it?
Intersection Improvement Project. This is not the roundabout project.
Right, right.
There's been no roundabout that's been approved. There's many people who are opposed to it. Pedestrian traffic is our #1 issue that we need to deal with, and whether or not a roundabout will solve that needs to be discussed and debated amongst the public and the officials. And we need to see plans, and we need to hear about this way before this happens. The grant that has happened, that the county has received money for, is not necessarily just for a roundabout. It's for an improvement project at that intersection. So to call this the roundabout project, I think is wrong. So I'm just stating that. I would definitely like to see some action taken by someone in initiating those public meetings to be happening on a regular basis with the ultimate number of public becoming aware of those meetings. I feel that we are now 4 weeks into this project on County Road 66 with 3 weeks left of phase 1. And I would also like to know what is the speculation of what's going to happen in phase 2 as far as we're only talking right now. And honestly, I don't know how you can spend $10,000 and order these speed bumps. I think that was a willy-nilly decision, and I think it was a waste of our taxpayer dollars, and I'm sorry, Eric. But I think that we should have known how to install those before they were ever ordered. And why don't you check with another city who needs to buy them? Maybe we won't lose out money. Maybe there's a way. Well, maybe there's somewhere outside the county, somebody that would like to buy them, and it wouldn't waste our $10,000. We've only got 20 days left of this phase 1, I hope. Right, Phil? So in phase 2, Phil, maybe in new business you can, it's not on any agenda, but I would like to know, is there going to be an effort made to keep at least one lane open on County Road 66 during phase 2? Our summer tourism depends on it. Those businesses right there, Moonlight Bay and Simonson and Moonlight Square, depend on it. What is the action going to be taken? Are we going to wait till it happens right there and you just close everything again? And then we have to fight for proper signage and all this stuff? So I would like to know what you are going to be proactive in doing about phase 2 coming up. So I hope that something, I know it's public forum, you don't have to answer my questions, but I hope that somebody can answer something to that point in new business. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. Can you address that a little bit? How the route's gonna go through on phase 2? Only because the next time we have a council meeting, it's gonna be after it's already done.
This is going to be received very well. There's no way to keep a lane of traffic open on the phase 2. It's still 16 feet, 17 feet deep hole that actually moves out in front of Simonson and goes in front of Simonson and then makes its way back to Moonlight Square. So we are going to try and keep a corridor open, and it won't be a very passable one for emergency vehicles, not for the general public. This is a construction zone.
Excuse me. We were told, and it would be in any minutes anywhere, that the 16-foot hole was only in phase 1 and it was going to be much shallower in phase 2, and an effort was going to be made to keep a lane open. Do you have any idea what that's going to do to our businesses to have no traffic be able to come through and back and forth?
I think they're gonna get business from other directions. Because I think
20 miles around?
Because I think people are resourceful. If they want to get to Moonlight for a beer or some food, I think they'll get there. They'll figure a way. I think they'll be able to get to the liquor store at Moonlight Square as well.
I think that
And I think
there's
that
been
in
no-
Minnesota, there's only a certain period of time to build. And if we're going to put a hole that at Daggett Pine, actually the ground's higher, so that is a deep area, then it goes down. Even if we're still 12 feet deep, 12 foot, we're taking half of the road. And then you want to take people going by as people are swinging excavators? I mean, we don't want to put pedestrians, people in cars
Safety is
into a
number one,
construction.
but we were told it was a much shallower way, the second phase. That's why you haven't gotten as much feedback back, because this
And the
detour
only
is
thing we would
working to
try and do
move
is,
traffic through our city.
we would only try and get emergency vehicles through there on an as-needed basis, not the general public. It's a construction zone.
It's gonna be a huge mess.
Did
and
you
it's
see the
gonna-
hole? Did you see the hole in this first part?
We've seen no pictures. Has anybody taken any and shown any to the public? We can't get down there. I'm not gonna go down there.
We have a
and
few
violate the
photos that
rules.
we put on there. We have a few photos that we put on the website where you've seen the
So bring them
piles.
to the council meetings and show them to the public that way. We'd like to see the progress and how this is going. To totally close off that section, is Moonlight gonna have an entrance onto 16? So you can't even get into Moonlight? If no lanes can be open,
Moonlight
how
has,
do you get into Moonlight
Moonlight
Bay?
will always have one access in. And the county, the intersection with 16 and 66 will never be completely closed. And the contractors,
You can't come south of Moonlight.
not until the hole's put back together.
And how long is that gonna be? From when to when?
I think that they'll be digging from July 1 until, they'll probably need 30 days to put that in. And then they'll be putting the road back.
I don't even know what to say.
It's the reality. It's construction. It's construction in an area that does not have a backage road. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality.
Scott Ziemers, can I just maybe make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Isn't there a way to get around behind Simonson Lumber
Oh, this is public forum.
and bring a,
Yeah.
hi Dave, how are you?
She was just questioning
We
me.
don't have public forum open at this point.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do.
I think that's what we're into.
Up
Yeah,
for
we
it.
do.
So is there a possibility of any way going behind Simonson Lumber, granting an easement from somebody, temporary easement?
Well, there probably is for a few, but not to open it up. Yeah.
Well,
Have you driven to bypass here?
yeah.
It's scary, isn't it?
Well,
is
I agree
what it
with
is.
Pat. You guys should have thought about this long before the project. I mean, you got a mess.
I know, but I mean, it is what it is.
Well, that's what I mean, they should have made an alternative road.
Patience.
People do it all the time.
That's all we got. That's all we can do right now.
But where can you do it?
That's what I'm asking you. My question was to you guys, is there a possibility? I'm not demanding you do it, I'm asking if there's a possibility. I feel for everybody.
Oh, I do too.
You know, you guys think it's all a joke.
Yeah, this. Thanks for coming.
Timing, everything.
Can I just say something?
Sure.
I live up on Northgate Lane. I take Highway 1 to 3 to Cross Lake because it's shorter.
To come back in.
I know everybody's hurting about this, but you don't have any traffic. You just go up to 50 Lakes and come around.
Yeah, takes.
Takes you less time.
It's going to be painful. All right, anybody else? Okay, any new business?
Oh, okay, you're gonna be mad, but I have some. I have one thing. I think we need to clear a couple of trees down here by City Hall sign because you can't see it. There's like 2 little trees in front of the sign. I'd like to see those cut down.
Are you talking about on 66?
The City Hall sign on the corner. You can't view it.
Clear it so you can see it.
Clear it so you can see it. If you want me to make a motion, I will. I'll make a motion that we cut down 2 of those little trees or the branches that are
Should we just
blocking.
go cut them down tomorrow? I'll go with you, so we'll both get in trouble.
I won't even charge for it.
Well, first I want to make sure that the council will approve it because if he's going to cut down trees, I don't need calls or anything else, so
All right,
I
does
need
anybody have an
approval to do it.
objection to knocking trees out that are in the view?
I think you should sign a waiver. You're not an employee.
Well, let's have the employees do it tomorrow. Right after they do the tree on Daggett Pine.
They're still doing,
All right, what else do you have, Marcia? Is that it? Is
That's it.
there any old business? Brad, do you have anything? Let's get out of here.
Move to close.
All second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.